I don't know if you can hear that. Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, so welcome to the show. This week, I have Raymond Chan, or Ray Chan, as I had to the show. So Ray, the reason why I've brought Ray on this because he does a northern style of kung fu called Tongbei, which is again to me is very very well unknown, and he's a fellow BBC like me, British born Chinese, and I met Ray probably in 2016, way back then. So we've become sort of like good friends. We also have we also had other circle of friends that we knew, but we didn't actually know each other directly until we actually met in Hong Kong. So welcome, Ray. And thank you for helping me attend this interview and helping me do this. So Ray, like I said, I've got about 9 questions to ask you, and if I just go through them one by one, over the course of the time of this interview. So if I may, right, can I start with the first question? Is right, can you summarize the novel style of kung fu that you do, and what attracts you to the style?
Sure. Sure thing, absolutely. I mean, first of all, thank you for actually thinking of me for this interview. It's such a great topic, to be able to share a bit more of like, the journey here since I came back in 2016 around that same time. But yeah, so the northern styles that I do is Tongbei Pekgua, Pigua Tongbei. I mean, Cantonese Mandarin, but generally it's Pigua Tongbei. If you search online, there are many Tongbei styles. It's confusing. So I would prefer you search the word Pigua Quan. That one would be more like specific to the one I do. And then also the second one that I primarily work on now is Wu style Taichi. Wu style Taichi. I did a bit of, I know Yang style as well. And then I've dabbled in a bit of other stuff like Baguazhang, and a bit of Xingyi, but not enough to really for me to say like I know that stuff. But all 4 are northern styles. Even Tai Chi, I think that's one of the misconceptions a lot of people have. It is a northern style. It's from the north.
Yeah.
So same principles come into Tai Chi, even if it's slow. It's still northern. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. So the second part of that question is what attracts you to do the style? There's usually something that attracts you to do it.
Yeah.
That.
So I suppose like I can go with Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a bit easier to explain. That one, I've always been interested in the concept of yin yang, the opposite. I mean, it's such a Chinese cultural thing, and it's so cool as a British Chinese growing up to have some symbol or connection, and like the most obvious one besides the like red is yin yang, right? So that's a pretty cool concept, and I guess I've always looked into that and then discovered that that could transition into like a martial arts, which is pretty interesting. And then also the influence was like my grandma would, when I was growing up, my grandma would come and look after me from time to time. And of course, what do grandparents do back then? They would go to the Chinese community center. Besides playing mahjong, they will do Tai Chi. And she'll come back and just be like, nah, 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 nah. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? So I was like, okay, I will discover one day in the future now what is Tai Chi. So I'm lucky to have met my 2 Tai Chi Sifus, one of them being Yang Sifu. And Yang Sifu is the one that's teaching me the Wu style right now, but also the one that taught me the Tongbei Pekgua. And how I got into Tongbei Pekgua, literally, it's because of him. Like I have no idea, just like you at that time. What is Tongbei Pekgua? It's so rare. So little information out there. So I had no idea. I just met him online, actually. It was like, I say it's like fate, because I dabbled with Baguazhang back in London. And then I think when I was in 2016, I came to Hong Kong. I just posted some random bit of my training. It wasn't very good. I just put it on IG. And then suddenly someone commented something. Someone's username was like KF80 something HK. And I was like, could that be Kung Fu in Hong Kong? So I was like, is this a teacher that I could potentially get to know? And so I went on his IG account and I was like, oh yeah, this is a master. He's teaching something. He's doing something. It looks impressive. I don't know what it is. So I reached out, and then he invited me to one of his classes in Yulong. And so I went over, did a class, had no idea, still had no idea what it was. But it was fun. And that's how I got into it. And I think that's what attracted me to Tongbei Pekwa is at first, it was fun. The
Mm.
style, it's very, big. It's moving. Every move, every step. So that's the traditional like northern style. One strike, one movement. You always advance, charge through.
Yeah.
That kind of blew my misconception of what Kung Fu could be because my understanding was more like Southern style or like karate style, it's more in a small, tight-knit space where this was so big and so large, it was quite different. And I think that felt quite right with my personality. And that's what matched. So
Yeah.
I think that's what attracted me at first, yeah.
Yeah. So again, you probably answered the second question. So you're in Sifu, obviously your current Sifu. Obviously, I know him as well from the martial film. So is that basically how you met? Just you posted something online, you responded, and then you just invited you to class. Wow.
Yeah.
So random.
Exactly. That's why I say it's like fate. And then the more I got to know him better, the more I
Yeah.
could say like our personalities matched and his background. I mean, he also despite being a Hong Konger, he spent 15 years growing up in Sweden. So he
Yeah. Yeah. That's
he speaks
amazing.
Cantonese and a bit of Swedish, a bit of English. But it's just like, okay, wow, how in the world am I going to find a Hong Kong master that is also on Instagram that then
Yeah.
also would message and I don't know. That's why I say it's like I think I became more intrigued by him and
Yeah.
then the style because the things that he's kept the
Yeah.
few styles that he knows are quite rare and the
Yeah.
ones
Yeah.
that he likes. I mean, even within the Wu Tai Chi, yes, it's very common, but the specific lineage that he's doing, there's no other people teaching this. No other people teaching
Yeah.
this.
No,
Yeah.
that's why I'm intrigued by wanted to interview about this because again, to me, right, the style is ultra. I mean, until I met you, right, I never even heard of Onion Seafood. Never even heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Never even heard of it. So that's why I thought this would be form a part of these interviews that I'm doing, asking different martial artists and from different styles about this. So if just moving on swiftly on to the next one, right? So forms, right? Does if you were to count how many forms there were, is there many? It sounds like sounds like there is. If you were
Um,
to count,
Actually, no. I mean, yesterday I was thinking of how many there were. It's not that many, and we always say there's not many. We quite prefer to be in Pigua Tongbei, especially like if you look into Pekwa Tongbei, there's like three family lineages now. But we're part of the even rarer one, which is the Joga family
mm,
lineage. And this one, there isn't the focus is more on like the training, the conditioning. And you might know like gong lek ga, lean lek ga, like those kind of conditioning ones, they're not pretty. They're not very performance based. They're more repeat, 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 understand the concept, train it, drill it into your body. It's not very fanciful. So actually those kind of forms are more important and there's only actually like three. It's not
all
many.
right.
Um, but and each form would have a specific, concept. Like for example, one may be to train the sort of vertical movement power as you charge through. The other one might be about the circular on the horizontal plane, and the other
Yeah.
might be more the diagonal. And then that's pretty much it. And then in performance forms, there are like basically one, Mut Min Kun, that's very famous.
Mm,
Um, that one's very famous because of its performance style. And then there's many versions of that. And then there's one stick form that's very famous to the point where other styles might have taken it onto called
okay.
Feng Mo Guan, which is
Yeah.
like a crazy, was it crazy demon or crazy beggar form stick or something? It's a bit wild, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, in all, there's only like less than 10 forms
Okay.
and they're not long. They are all done within 1 to 3 minutes, two
Okay.
minutes,
That's
quite fast.
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh,
So
and then oh yeah.
go on,
Oh,
sorry.
and then, sorry, I wanted to say the other one, which is in the Wu style Tai Chi, the one that he's doing. Normally, people think of Tai Chi and there's only like one, which is Yelling Ba, and that's it. And then you might get the Yun Kun, which is like the round form. So you might have like the Fong Kun and the Yun Kun. But then in our lineage, we've also got Sung Yun Kun, which is double round. There's more Tai Chi balls inside it. And then there's the Daizhonga, which is also 108, but you do it in a squatting, standing squat, 3 levels of height. So you can think of like, yeah, a really low and medium and then high for 108 moves. And then finally there's the Faiga, which is very rare. Like it's not often seen. And it's not like taking the 108, which is the slow, and then just doing it rapidly. It's not. It's actually done with a whole different like coiling, a whole different set of principles and rules. Because we believe, like, it's true. It's like if you're just doing a form fast, you're just doing the form fast. That's not a whole different form. So actually in this branch, we've got 5 different forms for the Wu style. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned about the Quan or the stick, right? That you use, right? So is it? Do you use a lot of weaponry in your style? Do you have a lot of weapons?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you do.
Tongbei Pigua is famous for the Miao Dao,
Okay.
the sprout saber. Like I'm not sure even if you can say that Tongbei Pigua was born out of the Miao Dao. Because there's different origins, like, or different influences. Some martial arts are animal imitation ones. Some are more weapons origin. Some are more grown out of the environment, being a small environment, back alleys, and But like what's usually for the northern styles is that since they're warring states, right? They kind of have a lot of weapon influences embedded. Like Xingyi is very not staff, spear, and Baji is very spear. A lot of the movements in the hand forms are Pigua. You can see it's a lot of hacking and slashing, very circular type movements. That's actually from the Miao and from the Quan, from the staff. So these two are the core of Tongwei Pigua. Like I remember my techniques and forms improved significantly once I understood how to use the Miao and stuff. So it is linked. Like if you want to understand like why the footsteps of the northern style are done that way, you must understand the weapons, because it's literally because of the weapons. Because the hands could do anything. The hands could do anything.
Yeah. Yes, it is. All right. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Never. Obviously, again, because of the martial club in Hong Kong, I would see you on the Sunday with you and Sifu and the rest of the students, right, practicing there, and also you also get the weapons out as well. So that's why I asked you about that. So obviously, like me, you're I call it BBC, but actually means British born Chinese, not the BBC broadcasting or the other thing. Right. So what actually brought you to Hong Kong then as a and again, I know you're a lot younger than me as well. So what brought you here? Would you say?
So I think like I left. Well, partly it was. I always say it's partly because of Brexit. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
was like Brexit, Brexit as well. Why not? But also it was like a good time to sort of explore like the other side of me. What is it to be a Chinese or Asian? What does it feel like to be part of the majority rather than the minority?
Yeah.
So
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
that was part of the reason. And then also like I wanted to explore like Japan and Singapore and like Asia, like in London you can easily fly to France or Spain or in Europe, but then in Hong Kong it's such a good base to be able to travel to the other Asian places cheaply. I mean, that was one of the big reasons that brought me over. Second, of course, was family. I've got family over here, my grandma, grandpa at that time, so there's that connection. But then also thirdly, I have to say, it was actually to learn Kung Fu. I mean, honestly, like, this isn't just because of this interview, I'm saying that, but like, because, in the back of my mind, it was always something that I wanted to learn, but I didn't want to corrupt my understanding whilst I was in the UK, potentially, because I wanted to learn it from the root, or at least, very least, someone that spoke Cantonese or spoke Chinese, because I seriously believe, like, when you get into a martial art, a lot of it is cultural. And a lot of the nuances are also cultural. And being a British Chinese, it just would make easier sense for me to understand those nuances.
Yeah,
If you're talking about entry to barrier, like I love capoeira and I love like Muay Thai and Muay Thai and all of that stuff, but like I definitely struggle to
yeah,
understand like, the cultural aspect of it. Which, so in my mind, if you're a British Chinese, like go learn some Chinese kung fu because your barrier to entry is already significantly lower. Especially
yeah,
Tai Chi, for example, you'll just get into it so much more easily,
yeah,
understanding at
yeah.
least, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I've the couple of people that I've interviewed prior to you, right? You know, obviously they're what I call non-Chinese speakers. So I asked them the question about, you know, if you understood Cantonese as a, you know, as a would it enhance your understanding? I've been thinking about this a lot as well because there are some concepts when you speak Cantonese, it's just not translatable. You just have to know.
Mm, mm,
I don't know if you've come across that as well. Thinking, how would I translate this into English? You just
mm.
can't.
Yeah,
So so there's something, you know, some aspects to that. And I think one of the things that Bay said was, you know, if you do a kung fu style and you're not studying the language as well at the same time, right, you are missing out on that. And I don't know if there's any truth to that actually, because obviously there's a lot of, and I'm talking from the Wing Chun, where there's obviously a lot of Wing Chun people that don't know how to speak Cantonese, but still very, very good at it. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
again,
absolutely.
it's down to feeling sensitivity and things like that. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that's what I've come across anyway in my on my, and I call it a journey because it is a journey on my
yeah,
journey of understanding. Yeah, so yeah, that's really good. And I think when you came to Hong Kong, I think that's when roughly where we met as well, isn't it? Because again, Taipo Park at the amphitheater,
yeah.
and I remember you talking about some. You told me you were from Camden in
Yes, I
London.
came to find you because I think some friends were like, "Oh, there's a Wing Chun guy in Daibo in the park. Do you guys want to go?" I was like, "Wing Chun, sure. I've never tried it. Let me go. I'll go learn what.
Yeah,
Let me go learn what Wing Chun is." From
and then
BBC
we
too.
found out
Why not?
that and then we found out that we actually knew you know, and again I've interviewed him as well, Batman guy young Qigong as well. That you
Yeah,
know he used to look after you as a child, and that's how you have a an understanding of his martial art style as well. And also you used to go to, like you said earlier about go to the line dances and watching them perform as well.
mm,
So
mm.
your influence and your background, you know, is the intrigueness as well as a young child, right? It's all been thrown in there as well at the same time.
Yeah. Honestly, like the best way to get someone curious about something is to deny them. And honestly,
Yeah,
like when I was so young and I was like already like 3, 4, 5 years old, seeing them doing the lion
yeah,
dancing in Chinatown, I'm like, who wants it? But like obviously a 3, 4, 5 year old cannot. So I was like
yeah,
always in the back of my mind, like bubbling, I want to learn Kung Fu. It could be interesting. And yeah, so I
yeah,
think that's a big reason. Like 2016 time, it was like all of these
yeah,
kind of different push factors was like it's just a good time to give myself the opportunity to sort of
yeah,
see the world a bit more. I mean, London's great. It's so cosmopolitan. You see so much of it. But then, actually going out, it's a different thing, I think.
yeah,
It's yeah, definitely good.
yeah. It is. Yeah. Okay. Right. Just moving next to the obviously you mentioned about Tai Chi. So again, it's uh I mean I reference this as Chi Sao, but obviously Tai Chi we call it pushing hands, right? Is that also part of the training that you do as well, pushing hands in also in Tongbei, or is it just mainly limited to the Tai Chi training that you do that?
So pushing hands in Pek Hua Jung is not so much, but we do a lot of conditioning. We do
Yes.
like for the first 20, 30 minutes, we'll do a lot of partner drills.
Yeah.
And some of that will be, like wrist to wrist, at different angles, shin to shin, shoulder to shoulder, back to back. And then some of that training, oh, and then a lot of cardiovascular stuff as well. And then some of that, there's one specific type of movement, which is like, I see it and I think it looks so much like a mantis style, where you basically get the wrist down and you kind of push like, so against like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
pushing
yeah,
against
yeah,
each other like that. But
yeah,
it's like one person is punching into your center line, the other person that's receiving is trying to push them out. And so
yeah,
it ends up looking like a square.
yeah, yeah,
But that is literally the goal is to push as hard as you can and the other person push out. That's the closest thing I've seen in that to pushing hands. And it's not
yeah, yeah.
actually pushing hands.
Yeah,
It's
no, I get you. I get you.
yeah.
I mean, I've seen that. many times. I've seen it in the Tong, you know, the Hakka style. But I've seen them do that a lot in that
Yeah.
style. Yeah. Okay. Just moving on to the next question as well, Ray. You know, any references to animals in your style as well? You know, it's like you know, some, and again, I'll use this as so some have rooster, some have bear, you know, and some have monkey as an example. Is there any references to animals in your style of martial arts, your style of kung fu?
Yeah, quite a lot. The style itself is known to have monkey legs. Sorry,
Monkey
yeah,
legs.
monkey legs. That's right. Gibbon legs. And the style is known to be kind of a monkey style, in general. Pet Guajang, a lot of it is like swinging, so you have a lot of momentum, and so a lot
Yeah,
of the idea is like, you know, gibbons, they have very long arms and they're like
yeah,
grabbing branches and they're swinging through. So there's a lot of that is what it is. It's not an imitation of monkey. It's not like Haokun monkey style. It's the imitation of the monkey movement, of how agile they are. So there's that, and the legs is having that idea of keeping momentum,
okay.
but not the momentum of like how a monkey's running. It's how they're swinging. So there's a lot of that, and then they also have another
Interesting.
phrase that is the arms are like a hawk or an eagle. So it's like as swift as going through like the winding trees, you know. So we have, they say it's like eagle arms and monkey legs.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's the
That's
phrase.
that's really interesting. That's really
Yeah,
interesting. Never even thought about it that way. Okay, so
yeah,
that's why when I see you training sometimes on the Sunday, that's is what you're exercising that uh, uh, flow or that movement to actually do that.
the looseness of it. It's not a hard style. It's loose. You must be loose, because if you think of like the gibbon, the long arms, they're actually going out to reach really far and to swing. So actually, this northern style is very like loose. We need to be agile and keep the
Yeah,
momentum. So I think that's also like the build is quite different, like how we end up like quite looking quite differently. It's because of the way that the training intention is different. Yeah. And then
yeah,
there's other animal references within, like, oh, but this is, I think, across Chinese kung fu. Like they love being very poetic, right?
mm,
Uh, with the naming of a technique. So within our styles, there's a form called Qinglong Kun, which is like blue dragon form, and then there's like uh Wulong Pun Da, which is like black dragon's tail hit the floor. You know, like there's loads of these phrases. There's like a ba yun chadong, like or you know, white monkey, like whatever. Loads of these. But they kind of revolve around, yeah, monkeys, snakes, dragons, and birds. 有吉群
yeah.
lam is like a swallow. But yeah, mainly these four, I would say,
That's
as
really
context.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Again, I think this is quite common in the northern style of kung fu. You know, they're more referencing to the animals and all that. But so again, the next question, right? You know, would you say it's more internal or external? I'm thinking you're going to say internal.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like technically, if you go by the book and how like the people, I don't know, have
Yeah,
categorized things, it is external.
yeah,
It is an oikakun technically, but you know, once you start training more, you start to see the blurry lines. If you start off
yeah.
external, you're gonna go internal, and if you started off internal, you're gonna need a bit of strength and conditioning. But I would place, if it was a scale, this one is sort of more in the middle, partial to, yeah, actually in the center. But our
Okay.
starting point would be external. Well, I mean, so much of the footwork and the weapon is so important that that is the external base, but the movement of it is quite internal.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, that's again another interesting point about the style. So I suppose finally, um, your exposure to other martial arts. You know, again, being in Hong Kong, right? You know, I can see that's a mecca for all that sort of thing. So do you you also dabble in other martial arts as well, apart from the one that you're currently studying now?
I really want to, but time is an issue, especially when you're dedicated. You know, I mean, I train like 3-4 times a week with Yan Sifu or my other teacher. So that's already like what, 3 evenings. And so then I have, you know, so I always try to branch out and you know, grow my understanding. But I still think in Hong Kong there's a bit of like trickiness to get into like you know, like are you trying to like, you know.
No.
So I find it a bit tricky to, if you're not invited or introduced to meet others. But I mean, I'm lucky at the martial club. Of course, I've met Mak Sifu. He's taught me one of the Wu Deep Zhang of Hong Ga Kun. So that was nice to learn from him. I've met Zhao Ga Tong on Sifu as well. He's shown me some stuff. Not enough to like learn, but like just shown me some stuff. I've met you, of course, you've shown me some Wing Chun. But have I followed like more than a month or 2 months? Not so much, I would say. The ones that I have learned more in my last 7 years though is just traditional Muay Thai style called Muay Chai Ya. We opened a like in Hong Kong, I think there's only 3 of us that have gone to the original school in Bangkok and brought it back. And so in Jordan, we've got a gym and I'm helping out with their marketing stuff. I don't teach it. I'm not qualified, but I love that stuff. It's like, you can think of it as like the Kung Fu, traditional Kung Fu of Muay Thai. It's very interesting. That's probably influenced me a lot as well.
I've seen your I've seen your IG, you know, and it looks pretty serious, the training there. It looks pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for short close quarters as well, which is something that I think I might lack from, you know, the Tongbei side of things. But yeah, that's really good. And then what else have I dabbled in? A little bit of capoeira whilst I'm here, because Hong Kong's so cosmopolitan. There are actual Brazilians here that are actually teaching. I'm like, excellent. Yeah.
That's good. I didn't realize that you dabbled in so many arts as well. You know, that's really interesting. So I haven't really got anything else to ask you, Raymond. So the viewers out there. So, you know, obviously I know Raymond from the Martial Club and also from meeting him in 2016 as well. We've become great friends and also fellow BBC, again, British born Chinese, right? Reference BBC with that. And obviously I've met his current Sifu, young Sifu, really nice guy. Obviously fascinating guy as well. He also sells tea as a living as well, doesn't he? If I remember rightly.
Yeah, he opened a tea shop originally in Yunnan. He still sells tea if you guys want tea. Around the world.
And also he teaches Chinese calligraphy, which is another speciality as well of his as well. Again, in the Martial Club, he has students come in and been able to do the calligraphy there as well. So I suppose another thing, and again, we just before we're having a catch up about stuff, you know, I look at young Sifu, right? He's made it more like a I'm not, again, culture wise, very good, but he's also made it sociable as well, because I see a lot of you guys after training, right, you know, having a beer, well, I assume it's alcohol, having a beer, having something to eat, so
whiskey,
it's more
whiskey, never beer, whiskey.
More whiskey. So it's more, you know, he's made it more as well as doing the martial arts idea, you know, afterwards, right? There's also a social aspect to it. And would you say, right, that and again, I asked you this question, would you say that it's more to do with it's more to do with Sifu and Tongbei, or Sifu and a student relationship, rather than you just giving money and then just going? Yeah, it's more of the first one, isn't it? Where, you know, he's your Sifu. Yeah.
I mean, for between me and him, it's more like that, I suppose. Like, because, but also like we are quite small, you know, and he's deliberately kept it that way. Just because, just
control.
There's that. I mean, you could say, but more is in that, like, he really puts a lot of attention into, like, he really loves teaching. He was a high school teacher whilst in Hong Kong before he opened up a tea shop. You know, he really does love teaching and he loves imparting what he knows. And when I say that, I mean he literally can go into quite a lot of depth.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and so I think he also knows that he cannot do that for like 20, 30, 40 people. He's just haven't got the time or energy for that. But so he keeps it. But you know, he in recent years we've been like right now we've just started online classes so that he can actually reach
Mm.
out to teach. I think just
Yeah,
this
I've
Saturday
seen
he's
that.
teaching Europe students as well. So
Yeah.
he is trying to promote the style more and what he knows, because we honestly, without him, Tongbei, we're the only school in Hong Kong. His
Yeah,
line
you
of
are.
style, there's no one else really teaching it. And you know, intangible cultural, if you want to call it, without the people, it'll be lost.
Mhm.
But no, he keeps it very sociable because that's just how he is, you know. Man
Yeah,
Mo, whatever, like that whole cultural thing. He's very chill, very relaxed.
yeah.
It's just his style. I might have, you know, in this time that I've been, you know, as I met him and I understood the situation, I had asked him like,
Mm.
where are the other Si Hengs? Where are the other people that I can train with? You know, because a lot of the style, like you say, pushing hands, right? It takes two to tango, you know? Like, I'm like, where's the rest of the Si Hengs? And it's like, oh, there's not many. I'm like, why not? So that's kind of also how I got closer with him, was to try and like set up the school's IG, set up the school's website, try to put things on Meetup and try to get more people involved. Still am. Because it's not like for, and we didn't say it's not for business, honestly. It's just literally so that we can get more people to just enjoy and for me to train with. Yeah. I think that's why we got so close. It's like outside of the actual training, to get to know all of this stuff, I need to bother him after school, after classes, and then we'll start going out for food. And then he himself has a circle of brothers that they always gather to get food. And yeah, it was all very natural, I suppose. Not
Okay.
not so much
Yeah,
like exchanging, paying tuition like that. No, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I suppose of all the seafoods there, when I see, obviously you come into training and things like that, he's the most social one. The others, well, they just come and go and that's it. They don't have any
But
really
you know, it
it,
could
it,
also be because he's only been teaching this since like properly for the last, you know, since he met me, maybe like 7 years ago. Before that, it was just like him sharing with his friends. He never really thought about teaching it with a system. Whereas I suppose like the other teachers at the martial club and elsewhere, they've probably already got a system in place,
mm,
or even I would say that they've got a syllabus that they could follow, that their masters had taught them. Like, okay, first year's this, second year's this. When it came to trying to structure Tongbei Pekwa, it was just he's sharing everything that he knew. So my first year learning from him, I was like, huh? What is this? Like, am I supposed to be learning this already? Like, this doesn't make sense. Shouldn't I learn that first? So it was a lot of like him learning from my new student perspective and me going, hey, what? And
yeah,
gradually over time, that's why it's become a bit more structured now. I would say if
yeah,
you
yeah.
join now, it's easier now than when it was like 7 years ago. But that's also because he's just really passionate about sharing what he knows. So we need to find a way to make it accessible. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
been
that's,
interesting.
that's, that's it's really good, really interesting. No, no, it's really interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Point of perspective of it. Yeah, that's all. That's all I've got to say. Sorry, that's all the questions I have to ask you, Ray. Is there anything you want to say? Obviously, when I put this out on YouTube, I'll put all your reference to you and your seafood all on the
Mhm.
in description. But is there anything you want to say to the viewers out there that want to find out more or be able to contact you again? I suppose once I put them on once I put the link up,
Uh,
they'll be able to contact you that way. Anything you want to say to the
yeah,
viewers there?
I mean, I want to say like if you're interested, if you're a British Chinese or a British Asian of something else, like martial arts for me is a very good way to get in touch with your culture and identity. I really think so. Like even if you don't speak the language, you've probably heard it from home. So it helps. And I think that's pretty unique. And I always think that like you know, if you've been given blessings from God or whatever, for whatever reason you've been born in your condition where you are, like make the most of it. And that's what I want to say, like culturally, like make the most of what you've been given. And that's an identity part, I would say. Like that's why I
Yeah,
like traditional martial arts, not so much the sportified version, which is unified, and it's the traditional side. And if you've already got half the way through because of culture, go learn, dabble more into it. And
yeah,
that's what I would say.
yeah. No, that's a nice saying at the end. Yeah, so I suppose that concludes the interview for now. Again, I want to thank Ray. Again, he's also surnamed Chan, but we're not related. Chan's a very popular surname, actually, like Smith in the UK. So I'd like to thank Raymond for doing this interview with me. Again, give me an insight into how he sees and also how his style of kung fu training has gone in there. Like I say, I'll share his contact details if you're interested in the link below in the description below of the link. And yeah, I'd just like to thank you, Ray, for helping me conduct this interview.
Thank you, Michael. Been a pleasure.
Yeah.